Brilliant. Okay, so hi everyone, and welcome to this Efficiency for Access Design Challenge 2024 to 2025 webinar on disability inclusive energy access innovation. We are delighted to be joined today by Bala Nagendran and Ben Hardman from Global Disability Innovation Hub. Welcome and thank you very much for being here, both of you. So Ben is Head of Innovation Ecosystems. Ben is a designer and engineer with over 20 years experience of bringing innovation to market. He's engaged across a variety of sectors and domains such as consumer electronics, sports technology, mobility, retail, social housing, and financial inclusion. And now at GDI Hub, Ben leads the innovation activities for assistive technology through partnerships across the world. So welcome, Ben. Thank you very much for being here. And we're also joined by Bala, who is an inclusive climate researcher. Bala is a climate practitioner and has over 5 years experience working with international think tanks and delivering multi-sectoral infrastructure and policy programs. And at GDI Hub, Bala works at the intersection of disability inclusion and climate change, particularly focusing on energy access and inclusive infrastructure. So we're delighted to have these two speakers with us today. And without further ado, I'm going to hand over to them and I will stop sharing so that Bala can share some slides.
Thank you so much, Rachel. I guess my screen is visible now?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you again, and thanks to everyone who's joined us. It's my pleasure to present around disability inclusive energy access innovation on behalf of GDA Hub. So before we get into the topic, a very quick introduction. So the Global Disability Innovation Hub is an academic research center and also a community interest company hosted by the University College London. We accelerate ideas into impact for a more just world for all and for people with disabilities particularly. Since our inception, we have reached 41 countries and over 37 million people, and primarily through partnerships with 100 other partners. If you're interested to know more about our work, please check out our Disability Innovation Strategy 2025-2030. And to come to the context of today's discussion, today's webinar, and why we are having this presentation today, as part of the Efficiency for Access Design Challenge, one of the assessment criteria is social impact, which looks into improved quality of life, employment generation, and also leaving no one behind. So we are here to discuss how your innovation could leave no one behind and also support your journey ahead from the disability inclusion perspective. So in today's presentation, broadly, we have 6 sections. The first 3 sections will be like the technical aspects of it, looking into what is disability and what do we mean by disability inclusive energy access and why we need it. And the second section will look into the intersection of disability innovation and energy access and what are the opportunities. And finally, in the third one, we'll discuss the ways to operationalize disability innovation as part of your projects. And the last 3 sections, we will get a little more hands-on to understand the key takeaways and how you could kind of apply that in your context. So we also have like a very small task for all of you. And finally, we have a call to action to understand your work and also see how we can best support you in the journey ahead. So jumping in, the first section is on disability inclusive energy access, where we understand what do we mean by disability, how do we understand it, and also what do we mean by disability inclusive energy access. The Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities defines disability as something that results from the interaction between persons with impairments and attitudinal and environmental barriers that hinders their full and effective participation. So from this kind of a definition, we look at disability as an outcome of barriers. In simple terms, we can say disability is equal to impairment plus barriers. And as we all may know, disability increases with age. It could be visible as well as invisible. A lot of intellectual disabilities may not be visible. It also is intersectional. It's not just not about disability. It also the impact also compounds based on your other personal identities, including gender, race, religion, etc. And disability is diverse, and we understand disability as part of being human. And when we say impairment, it covers like a wider spectrum covering physical, mental, intellectual, and sensory impairments, and barriers as well. There's like a long list of barriers, including physical barriers, policy barriers, communication barriers, transportation barriers, and etc. So from this kind of context, if you also look at the numbers, 1 in 6 people globally have a disability, and almost 80% of them live in low and middle income countries. As we discussed in the previous slide, disability is diverse and it is intersectional. So different aspects of a person's identity, including ethnicity, class, gender, religion, can overlap and create complex system of discrimination in this case. And here are like a few examples of what disability could look like, including vision, hearing impairment, mobility impairment, etc. So from looking at the perspective of energy access, what do we really mean here? Energy access interventions commonly look into clean, reliable, and affordable electricity for household, public services, and economic activities. I'm sure most of your interventions or what your proposals are for the design challenge could also come under one of these categories as appliances, devices, or industrial equipments, which you look into from the perspective of energy innovation. But how about and what about the access to sufficient energy for individuals with unique needs? In this case, we are discussing about people with disabilities who face a lot of structural barriers because of which they have their unique needs from the energy perspective. And what do they look like? Starting with people with disabilities have both specialized as well as standardized medical care, and they also use assistive technology, which in most times require electricity. And they're also forced to spending more time indoors, primarily due to structural barriers and physical barriers in the external environment, and also due to social stigma, which also means that they consume more energy indoors. And they have limited livelihood opportunities. Above all, they have the right to independent living, which means that even for their essentials, they may rely on more devices and equipments than people without disabilities. So from that context, we know that people with disabilities require undisrupted, affordable, and clean energy for a multitude of reasons. Starting with undisrupted energy, as I mentioned, they require energy to charge and operate their assistive technology, also to take care of critical medical equipment. In addition to that, they also require it for accessibility infrastructure, which may include lifts or elevators or even like automatic doors, which are essential for some people with disabilities. And finally, their households and communication products. When it comes to affordable energy, multiple research shows that people with disabilities, households of people with disabilities are commonly larger, poorer, and are in rural areas, which also means that they are less likely to be early adopters of clean energy technology, clean energy products. So it's important to make them affordable so that they can actually access them and also be early adopters of it. And finally, as I discussed in the previous slide, commonly people with disabilities spend more time indoors, which means they are all subjected to indoor air pollution, especially in regions where still solid fuels are common. So clean energy and modern energy services for personal and household users will help them mitigate household pollution and health risks. So this kind of sets the context on how we look at disability and disability inclusion, and what do we really mean by disability inclusive energy access. So building on this, we want to now discuss what are the opportunities for disability innovation at the intersection of energy access. So what do we mean by innovation or disability innovation in this context here? Innovation is the successful exploitation of new ideas. And we define disability innovation as a means taking new ideas and turning them into successful products, services, or ways of thinking that improve life for people with disabilities and those around them. Uh, as I mentioned in the previous section, people with disability have the right to independent living and equal participation as people without disabilities, which means that they also require that support environment which can enable them to have independent living. So for users in this case with disabilities, value means enabling their everyday tasks which includes mobility, working on communicating, etc. And the data point we have is almost 2.5 billion people globally need assistive technology, but only less than 10% of them have access to it due to unaffordability. So looking at the opportunity, we have broadly categorized them into two. One, the opportunity to kind of like create livelihood opportunities for people with disabilities, which means that mainstreaming disability inclusion across all clean energy products, services, and systems, the ones that you are all working on and building on right now. The second category is powering assistive technology, the potential of energy access stakeholders to further the research, innovation, and reach of assistive technology for people with disabilities. We'll now quickly look at some case studies on both the categories, and that will also shed some light on what are the possible interventions that you can look at in your work. Starting with the first category for livelihood opportunities. Globally, there is disproportionately low representation of people with disabilities in the labor market, with unemployment rates as high as 70 to 80%. Also, due to multiple social and workplace-related barriers, people with disabilities often take on entrepreneurial journey. So energy access solutions could immensely support them on this. So here we're looking at a case study where Selco Foundation from India integrates solar energy solutions with assistive devices, which improves the quality of life for individuals with disabilities. More particularly, this example is about Mr. Ramachandra, who is a blind potter from India, from a Kumta region, who looks at moving from like a manual pottery wheel to a solar powered pottery wheel, which has both reduced his manual labor, but also has increased his overall income as well as his livelihood opportunities. We also have other similar case studies from lower middle income countries, including a solar powered roti rolling machine with the capacity to make 300 roti per day, or solar powered mechanized sewing machine for a woman on a wheelchair. So all of the equipments that you are all designing, we highly encourage that relook at your design solutions from the perspective of creating livelihood opportunities for people with disabilities. Look at how your own equipments and devices will be like approached and used by people with disabilities. The second category, as we mentioned, is to power assistive technology. So I mentioned assistive technology a couple of times, but then if you look at what the definition of that is, or what do we really mean by that is, any equipment, it includes software or hardware, which enhances the ability of people with disabilities to perform daily tasks and a wide range of activities, is broadly defined as assistive technology. In this case, we want to kind of specifically highlight the 22 energy-based assistive products, which are part of WHO listed priority assistive products. So there is immense potential here to research and to also expand business and impact, as these 22 energy-based products require affordable and sustainable adaptations or alternatives from clean energy perspective. The list of products you see on the screen are some examples, which includes wheelchairs, prosthetics, also hearing aids, etc. So
Bala,
yeah.
sorry to interrupt. I can't see your screen anymore. I don't know about others.
Oh, okay.
Can anyone see the screen?
No, actually, it's clicked off for some reason.
No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, if you could try sharing again.
That's better.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Has it been a while?
It's
Should I
visible.
go back?
Sorry.
Sorry, has it been a while? Should I go back?
I think we saw the previous slide.
Okay.
Oh no, we didn't see that one. Maybe the one before that. It hasn't been too long. We saw this one.
Okay, great. I just was mentioning about this one as two case studies of other solar powered livelihood opportunities. One is a roti rolling machine, another one is a sewing machine. I'm sorry for the inconvenience there. And then I was talking about the assistive technology and the prospect of looking at research, business, and impact through powering assistive technology, and especially the 22 energy-based assistive products. And some of the examples that you see on the screen are part of the list of 22. So here again, the two specific things we want you to look at. One, relook at your own design interventions and design ideas from the perspective of AT integration, how someone who's using an assistive product will approach and use your product right now, and also how your product could support charging and functioning of assistive products as well. So those are some things to definitely keep in mind. And here, like for the deep dive case study we have is Solar Air. Solar Air is like an affordable solar rechargeable hearing aid. So we have the data point saying more than 200 million people from low and middle income countries have hearing impairments. If you look at a hypothetical situation where all of them have access to the currently available non-rechargeable zinc-air batteries-based hearing aids, almost 7.3 billion batteries will be generated as e-waste per year, assuming each battery only comes for 5 to 10 days. So this scenario poses three challenges. First, the current hearing aid models are quite expensive. It has high capital cost for adoption, which itself is a challenge. Second, when we consider the operations cost, like almost every 5 to 10 days, people with disabilities who are using this has to change the batteries, which involves substantial costs for them, which also leads to discontinued usage. And finally, as I mentioned, like we are generating 7.3 billion batteries, which is a huge e-waste every year. So these three challenges are easily being addressed through an intervention that kind of brings together disability innovation from energy access perspective. So similarly, we can look at 22 different other energy-based assistive products as well, and look at what an adaptation could look like, and see how this will link and work with other appliances and other products that we are designing right now from energy access perspective. So these are all the opportunities, like both from livelihood perspective and also from assistive technology perspective. But how do we now operationalize this as part of your work? And what are the key ideas that you need to kind of like impart to realize these? Starting with two major ideas for that. One is inclusive design. Another one is inclusive business models. So we also quickly look at some key pointers to keep that in mind. Inclusive design can help all human beings experience the world around them in a fair and equal way. So inclusive design is more of a mindset as well as a process that can help you work your design in a both accessible way and also collaboratively with the users itself. So inclusive design practices places people at the heart of the process, delivers result with and not for people. Also, it's a collaborative and co-design kind of an exercise which anticipates differing needs and wants and try to address as much as possible. So here, from the energy access perspective, again, what we need to look at is one, disability limits or excludes access to energy products and services. And some of the recent research shows evidence to this. The first one to understand is like a recent research which kind of did like a survey with people with disabilities after they use like almost 27 different products, found out that almost 73 of those people with disabilities actually use these products, though 21 of them actually, because of their disability, their usage is impacted. So people are actually using them already, but then their disability does impact the usage. Second part of it is, so there are like almost more than quarter of them who are actually not even being able to use it. And the reason for that is their disability again. So some of the common impacts we notice are like physical strain while using these products. The kind of like interface is difficult for them to work with. And second is the sensitivity towards product stimuli, which includes like bright colors, smoke, bright light from the device, etc. So how do we make sure like these kind of impacts are like reduced or removed, and also make sure people with disabilities do not find like lack of options to use. Like more commonly, what we also witness is if there are like 10 products available in the market, almost 9 of them are inaccessible, and there is like only one exclusive accessible option, which also limits the options available for people with disabilities. And building on from inclusive design, another part to also take into account is inclusive business model, because we mentioned in the past, in the second section, about how households of people with disabilities are generally poorer, larger, and are in rural areas, which limits their adoption at the early stage. So to kind of address that issue, it's important that there is a different approach to business model where we look into people with disabilities as consumers, and we meet their needs also through how we kind of sell the products. So here we have two broader case studies. The first one, again, is an extension of Solar Air, a solar power hearing aid company, where they have pay-as-you-go model to allow incremental payments, and which makes also the technology accessible to anyone who's unable to afford it with upfront cost. And the second case study is Dragon Anywhere, which is a speech recognition software which offers a subscription-based mobile application, enables people with disabilities to dictate and edit documents on the go. So similarly, there are other ways to look at how we can include people with disabilities as you design your business model. These are like two case studies that kind of brings both of these values, inclusive design as well as inclusive business model in action. Wheelchair is probably like one of those assistive products that comes to our mind when we think about disability inclusion generally. So we have two companies here, Neo Motion and Matt, who from an inclusive design perspective have come up with their product design, which is like a custom built wheelchairs, and also have like a add-on electrical attachment, which converts a wheelchair into like a electric powered vehicle. So inclusive design is part of the entire conception and execution of the product. And also from the business model perspective, they do have like right to own models where incremental payments are allowed, and also which is linked to their employment opportunities as well. So kind of bringing together mobility, energy, as well as disability innovation together, we can make sure these kind of interventions and innovations are accessible and affordable in regions with limited infrastructure as well. So till now, we've looked into a lot of case studies and also looked into the opportunities. And I'm sure like we have enough reason to believe this is a social need and this has a very strong social case to why we need to do this. But it also makes business sense completely because people with disabilities and the disability community is one of the largest emerging market globally right now. Almost 22% of global working age population is with a disability. And we know overall 1.6 billion people in the world currently have a disability. So it's estimated that for every dollar spent on accessibility features and inclusive design, companies see an average revenue return of over $9. So it's like almost 1 in 9 ROI. And we also see from the research that if inclusive design and accessibility features are integrated at the early stage, it could be done even with almost no additional cost, whereas any retrofits or adaptations in the future could cost as high as 20%. So cumulatively, we also know the value of the entire market, disability market is 18.3 trillion, 18.3 billion USD, including of people with disabilities, their friends and family. So it's not just not like for social impact, but it's also for a stronger economic and business case. And to kind of wrap up this section, one last thing to kind of also highlight is it's not just about products. We spoke about a lot of products so far, and also we spoke about business model, but it's also important to think beyond devices and products. It's important to strengthen the ecosystem together. So including fitting, training, maintenance, and repair. To kind of think all of this comprehensively, it's important to recognize people with disabilities as consumers and co-designers rather than looking them as only passive end users. Because the intention here is not to make things just accessible, but to kind of integrate the lived experience of people with disabilities across energy access innovation as you come up with like new ideas and new devices. So to summarize all of these three sections we have looked into so far, the key takeaways, what we want to kind of leave you with from this presentation is, first, disability inclusive energy access. We want you to absorb the need to do it because we have almost 1 in 6 people globally with a disability, and disability is diverse and arises from barriers that should be reduced and removed. And people with disabilities have high energy needs compared to people without disabilities. So they require undisrupted, affordable, and clean energy for the independent living. The second section we looked at is in terms of opportunities, we looked at two categories. One, opportunities for improving and enhancing livelihoods for people with disabilities. And second is to opportunities for powering assistive technology through your energy access interventions. And the last section, we looked into operationalizing disability innovation through, again, two ideas. One is inclusive design as a mindset and a process, which places people at heart and also adopts co-designing as a critical component. And second part of it is inclusive business model, which recognize people with disabilities as equal consumers and leverage the market potential. Ben, over to you.
Thank you, Bala. Hi, everyone. So my name is Ben Hardman, and it's great. Yeah, it's great to be here today and to be able to contribute to the Efficiency for Access Design Challenge. So wonderful to meet you all. I just wonder, before we move on to the next section, if there are any questions on what you've heard so far. We can maybe give like a minute or two to those questions. Don't worry if you don't have one. I think by the end of it, you will. But maybe an opportunity now to put your hand up and ask a question on everything you've heard. Okay. Okay. Well, we'll continue to move on then. Bala,
Question in
I've
the
lost.
chat, Ben. Is inclusive design a form of human-centered design?
Oh, sorry. Yes.
You want to
Yeah.
take
Bala, do you want to take it?
Sure. No, that's right, actually. So we kind of look at inclusive design, maybe you can say as an extension to it, or you can say it's also like a sub category to it, or it's kind of anonymous as well. Sorry, it's kind of synonymous as well. So it's kind of the same, but when we say inclusive design, what we also mean is we include people as part of the process. And it's not just about thinking from their perspective, it's also about like kind of like integrating their lived experiences through co-designing itself. So that's broadly how we differentiate it. Ben, do you want anything to add here?
No, that's great. I think universal design is another way of describing it. So maybe a more common term that you guys are used to hearing. Good question. Okay, Bala, we've lost the presentation, I think, unless it's just me.
I still see it.
Ah,
Yeah, it's on, Ben.
that's it. Okay, yes. Sorry, I've got it.
Yeah.
Okay, so on to today's task. I suppose maybe just to set this up, we've had a look at the projects you're working on, and they're really, really exciting. We look at them naturally with a slightly different lens, given Global Disability Innovation Hub's focus. But I do have to say, there's a few in there that really, really jump out of the page, and I think, well, firstly, I'm a peanut butter fan. So the solar powered peanut butter maker was really piqued my interest, but there's many others in there where we see a real opportunity for inclusive design and disability inclusion more generally. So you've heard so far from Bala what disability is, it being a function of both impairment and barriers, and those barriers can be physical, social, cultural. You've heard about the different types of disability and how these are impacted both positively and negatively by access to energy, and also how examples of assistive technology businesses are adopting innovative energy technologies and also complementary business models. So there's a really interesting intersection here, and that's why we're here talking to you today. And then, given the last question, inclusive design is in principle is a great leveler for products, services, environments, business models. It helps to level access, literally. So what we're hoping is that this has helped to develop a baseline understanding of disability inclusion and assistive technology to a degree, and we're very aware that it can seem quite a complex and opaque space. It's not a simple it's not a simple space to really engage with, actually, and really what we're hoping is that you're able to approach this with confidence, and not fear. And there is a lot of fear in how to address disability more generally, and we want you to gain confidence in doing that, because really the opportunities from a design perspective, from an engineering and technology perspective, but also an economic perspective, are really, really very good. So it's a lot to take in, but we wanted to help you start thinking about it. So the next part of the session is a task. So we want to get everyone actively thinking about the content that we've discussed so far. So Bella, if you could move me on. So like I say, we've had a look through your projects and they are very, very exciting. So this task is directly related to your innovation and the innovation that your team are working on. I mentioned a few interesting projects that I noticed earlier on, but with all of them, really, you've got to start somewhere with disability inclusion and inclusive design. There's many places you can start, but we try to kind of have an easy entry point at this stage. So personas is one tool, and it's just one tool, but it's very, very useful in this context to help you think about users more generally. So we use user personas because they're fictional, but they are research based, and they're a really good representation, or they can be a really good representation of a subcategory of your users. And they just represent, people who might be using your product, service, or system. And to the question earlier, again, it's very good at bringing you into the experience of the user, ensuring that the decisions you're making are user-centered, and that is very, or can be very inclusive if you're using good personas. Next slide, please, Bella. So for today, has that moved on? There we go. Thank you. For today, what we wanted to do was really think about a particular user persona and use that, overlay that on your specific innovation. Have a very quick, like 5 or 10 minute think about how this might impact the way you approach your projects, but also how it might impact the physical design as well. So personas, I'm sure you've used before. But you may not have come across a persona like this. So this is Joan. Joan's 34 years old. She lives in Kenya. Her occupation is a market vendor, and she's a single mother of 2 children. So the context to Joan is that she is one of 8 million people in Kenya living with uncorrected poor vision. That is a form of disability. I mean, my prescription glasses, if I take them off, I can kind of function, but I can't read the screen. So equally, I can't read labels, I can't read instructions, I can't read signs, I can't read my kids' books. So there's, whilst it's a relatively slight form of disability, it is nonetheless a disability. And there are 8 million people in Kenya living with that. And there are many reasons why they're living with it. Joan, for instance, is living with it because of the high cost of eye care and limited access to trained professionals. So she's never received proper diagnosis or treatment. So it's very common that somebody with a disability just lives with it. Now, it could make a dramatic impact on her life. She can see clearly, she can sell more. So from a livelihoods perspective, it means a lot. She can earn more, and she can also help her kids in school. So this is Joan. This is her life experience so far. If you can move me on, Bala. What we want to do is we're going to break into 2 groups, and I think some of the GDI Hub team will join you, 1 or 2 of us in each room. And what we want you to do is just imagine that Joan is one of your target customers or one of the users of your product or technology. And then in those groups, just tackle 2 questions. One is, how would this impact the design process that you've taken? So how you went about selecting the idea, developing the idea, prototyping, etc. How would that be different if you were doing that for Joan? And then also, what impact might it have on the actual design of the product? I know you guys are going through. I think you're going through prototyping now. So what would be different? What would be different if Joan was one of your users? 2 simple questions. Many different kind of routes that you can take this in. So I think what we'll do now is we'll break into two teams. We'll take 5 or 10 minutes on that. One of the GDI Hub team will join you, and then we'll regroup and share some of the discussion that we've had. Rachel, is it okay for us to split?
Yeah, brilliant. I've just taken screenshots of the slides and popped them in the chat so that people have those details in the rooms. And then, yeah, we've got 2 rooms, so I'll just open them now and you'll all be sent into your rooms.
Thank you. And then Rachel, you'll call us all back in, yeah?
Yeah, I'll call you back in. How long would you like?
I think somewhere between 5 and 10 minutes. Should I drop you a note?
Brilliant.
I feel like we've kind of done.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay, is this just we only have 5 minutes left, so I'll quickly kind of cover the conversation that we had. So Santosh and I were with Joy and Joella. So Joy is developing an automatic a solar milling machine for grain to run on solar DC. So the idea is that it reduces the stress and the pain of manual milling. And that solves for kind of food security in Nigeria. It minimizes operating expenses, reliability and affordability go up. So designing for somebody like Joanne with a visual impairment, Joy felt that it should be as automated as possible. So where maybe there isn't automation built into some of the functionality, there could be like switching the functions of the device on and off, and also controlling it. Make that more automated, make the loading easier, which is more of a physical thing. But then also finding the right grains was an interesting one. So how do we know which grains to put into the machine? Particularly if you're visually impaired, there's a barrier there. And then also how to properly effectively catch the output from the machine as well, and make sure there's no loss or kind of waste at that point. So really interesting. And Joella was similar in that Joella's technology is solar grain storage, and this is about minimizing losses. This is specifically in Rwanda. And their technology is using quite a lot of IoT and AI technology to optimize conditions for storage. Again, I think the integration of automation into the technology seemed to be something that was paramount for somebody with a visual impairment. But interestingly, Joella was describing how maybe sound could be used as a feature within the technology. So in terms of communicating and communicating functions, but also inputs and outputs with the user would be really important for a visual impairment. So really great conversation. I'll stop now because we now have 4 minutes left, and I'll pass over to the other team.
Yeah, but maybe I can just quickly speak about it. Like, we heard reflections primarily on 2 projects, focusing solar powered irrigation and pumping system and solar powered water purification system. In both the cases, the students were speaking about the usage of sensors and how they can actually bring that in to help give like early signals on the progress of the project of the activity, and also look at how they can improve their overall interface in terms of LEDs and LCDs, and see how that will impact someone with visual impairment. So that's broadly what the kind of discussion we were having.
Fantastic. Thank you, Bala. Thank you so much, everyone. I mean, it seems quite a simple question, but actually there's there's clearly lots of opportunity to impact kind of how you do things, but also, the physical products themselves. So we're going to wrap up now. Now I can't see the screen. I'm sure it's there. Oh, there we go. Okay. So yeah, thank you so much for like spending a bit of time with us and sharing, your thoughts. We're finishing with a call to action. So there's 2 things today. So we would love to work with you a bit closer. So we want to understand a little more about the opportunity there. So from each of you and your teams, we've designed a questionnaire, and we'll share the link with you today. This is the point towards the bottom of the slide, actually. So the questionnaire is designed to understand your current level of disability inclusive innovation, gauge your interest and your readiness to integrate accessible into your product development, and to determine the potential impact of a technical assistance offer. And that will be provided by us. And we have space to offer that to 3 teams over the next few months. So should you wish to spend a bit more time with us and go a bit deeper into some of these areas, then we'd love to do that. Please fill out the questionnaire when we provide the link to you. And then we'll have a look through those responses and we'll get back to you. So that's number 1. So please fill out that questionnaire. We'd love to hear more. The second one, which is on the next slide, please, Bala. The second one is an invitation to join our Disability Inclusive Energy Access Innovation Network. So this is a part of our wider offer to the Transforming Energy Access platform. So we're bringing together energy access innovators and assistive technology innovators together into this network. And by doing that, what we're hoping we enable is for you to build new partnerships, new connections within a slightly different sector, but a related sector. There'll be resources that are posted that you can access to help you navigate some of the questions we've been talking about today, really about disability inclusion more generally. But then we'll also invite you to attend other networking events. And these will be designed to really connect you more closely with certain innovators that have a technology that's interesting to both of you. There may be a business model that you'd like to discuss with them. And then we can offer ongoing mentorship and technical assistance around that opportunity. So this service goes on through to the end of the year, and it's free. So we're here for you, and we'd love to engage a bit more closely with you should you want to learn more. And that offer will be coming online very soon. The best way to get involved is to complete the survey link that we sent you, and also scan the QR code on this slide, and join the innovation network. And that's currently being hosted on LinkedIn. And there's a private group that you can join, and we're moderating that. So there's about 20 people there already, and hopefully more very, very soon. So those are our calls to action. I guess if there are any questions, we can take them, but I just want to say thank you from GDI Hub, just for spending some time with us today. We know you're busy, but it's been very interesting to kind of learn more about what you're doing and hopefully inspire you to do a little more in the disability inclusive space. Over for any questions. Okay. So Bella's shared the link. You can see that there. So please do complete that, and hopefully, yeah, we'll speak to you soon. Thank you, Rachel, for hosting.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for being here. I think it's been a really valuable session, and I think those offers that you've shared at the end are an amazing opportunity. So I hope that people make the most of those. I'll be sharing the recording and those links as well in the CrowdSolve post about this event. So you can go there if you've missed any of the links, and they'll all be there. Yeah, thank you so much for being here, Ben and Bala. Thank you for sharing with the students and sharing that perspective, and yeah, amazing opportunity. I've just put a feedback survey into the chat, so any students left, we love to hear your feedback. It's really, really useful. So please do take a moment to fill that out. But yeah, I think that's it for today. Big thanks to you for presenting.
Thank you. It's a pleasure, and good luck to everybody with the challenge. And yeah, we hope to speak soon.
Brilliant. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Everyone.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Rachel. Bye, everyone.
Bye.